Hello, y'all. Nice to be with you. And here's what we're doing. We're here to celebrate 25 years, probably today. I'm not sure, to be exact, of Be Your Own Life Coach. So 25 years ago, Be Your Own Life Coach came out. And I'm very thankful to say that many people bought it and turned it into a bestseller straight away. And it's been on the shelves and never gone out of print for 25 years, which truly is an achievement because books come and go. Lots of books get published, especially in the UK, and quite often you never hear of them. They just come and go, and that's regardless of whether they're great. Sorry, I'm just checking on one thing. Speaker, I'll put myself on speaker. That's absolutely regardless of whether they're good. It's just a question of getting seen. So we're going to cover 3 points in our gathering here today. I'm going to cover, I guess, what it takes to create a huge shift or something bigger in your life. So for me, Be Your Own Life Coach was something bigger in my life. And I'm going to tell you how I almost sabotaged it, because that would be useful. Because here's what I believe. I believe that unless you are some sort of a strange person or sociopath, you probably, like me, can question yourself when you're moving forward in life in a big way, when you're stepping out there to get something bigger, much bigger than what you've got now. And the way that you handle that questioning of yourself will determine the results and the progress that you make in life. Some people call this having imposter syndrome. I think that makes a lot of sense. So here's what happened to me. I took a call from the publishers, Hodder and Stoughton, and it was on the same day that I'd had a half-page feature in the Daily Telegraph. And they said to me, "Can you write?" I said, "I can," because ladies and gents, what do we say when opportunity comes? Put it in the chat. We say, yes. They said, "Can you write fast?" I said, put it in the chat, yes. Because when opportunity comes, you just say yes and you figure it out afterwards. So within about 10 days, I had a really decent advance. In fact, I had an agent at the time, which sounds very grand, but I did. And she said, "My gosh, I think you're really punching to push for that advance." And I said, "I'm pushing for it because I need them to be invested in selling that book. And the way that we're going to sell that book is to get it featured in the press. And they have got to care about getting their money back. Is this making sense, ladies and gents? Give me a yes if that makes sense. They, the publishers, have got to have a reason to get behind the book, sell the heck out of it, get it serialized in the Daily Mail, and help make it sell, which is exactly, ultimately, what happened. We had a 3-day serialization in the Daily Mail. If you have that, you've got a bestseller on your hands. So I took that call. I got a 5-figure advance. And then I sat down on a Monday morning at 9:30 after I dropped my son off at school to start writing Be Your Own Life Coach. And guess what happened? Absolutely nothing. I was struck dumb. I mean, paralyzed, frozen. And the only words that would come, I had this little brother typewriter word processor, which I thought was very fancy and advanced at the time. And the pages, literally, you pulled them off. If you made a mistake, you had tip X. Like, most of you are far too young to remember there was a time like that. And then we had this thing, a little machine called a fax machine. And you sent off the pages in a fax machine to London, to the London office. They scribbled a red pen over it and sent it back. So, but nothing would come. There was nothing to send. And the only words that would come, they were in my head. That's what those words were. Who am I? Those were the only words. Who am I to do this? I mean, I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. I mean, I'm not trained to do anything. I'm still not, by the way. Um, and I just thought, who am I to do this? How can I possibly write this book? Tell people how to live their lives. I mean, really, who am I to do this? I honestly, this conversation around my head that I would call up Rowena, the commissioning editor, and say, my God, I'm so sorry to have wasted your time. Honestly, this book is a great idea, but you should get somebody, I don't know, get somebody qualified. And I thought, don't be silly. Don't be silly. You've got the advance. You've already spent half of it. Hello. And I guess I'm just not the sort of person to give up, as I'm sure you're not either. But unless you know how to handle that doubt and that questioning, you could slow yourself down or just stop yourself from forging ahead in life. So I sat there and I remembered something that my dad had said. I mean, oh gosh, probably 20, 25 years earlier. My dad was a door-to-door salesman. I know, again, you're all far too young to know what even is that. Was he selling doors? No. He was selling vacuum cleaners and washing machines for the Hoover Company. And he literally knocked on doors. And he loved it. And he was sensational at it. In fact, he was the best in the company. Every year he had the highest sales. Maybe the occasional year he was second place, but he was amazing. And here's what he used to say to me. I used to drive around with him weekends, my holidays. And here was his rule and the secret of his success. He used to say, Fiona, don't try and sell anything unless you're sold on it yourself. Sell it to yourself first. And somehow those words came back to me. He was talking about a vacuum cleaner or a washing machine. But it struck me that it was exactly the same for me. In fact, for anything. I realized I had to sell myself to myself. And then, and only then, could I begin to do this. And that is what I did. I sat down for 15 minutes, took all of 15 minutes. And here's what I wrote down. I took a pen and a piece of paper. Write this down, ladies and gents. At the top of your page, write down these words. Reasons. I am uniquely placed and qualified to, and then write the thing in that you want for yourself. Write the thing in. So for me, it was write this book. It was as simple as that. So you are going to do the same for your thing. And what you're going to do is you're going to allow the answers to rise up. They will just flow up to the surface of your mind. Keep the list open, keep it ongoing, because over the next few days, things are going to come to the surface. They're going to rise up that you've forgotten about. And you're going to go, oh my goodness, how could I have forgotten about that? Right? So you want specific evidence, incidents, things, proof that shore up your sense of conviction and credibility and ultimately confidence. When you are connected to this sense of credibility, conviction, and confidence, it's very, very powerful for two reasons. Number one, it just frees you up to go out there and do the thing that you want to do. It is the antidote to doubt. It is the answer to imposter syndrome. And the other beautiful advantage is that people feel it. It changes your energy. And I believe that people don't buy from you or buy into you unless you are conveying that confidence from a deep place within, that confidence and that conviction. Is this making sense, ladies and gents? Give me a yes in the chat. And that means that when you show up, some people like to use the word authentic. It's a little bit overused, but look, I'll take it. But when you show up and you're brimming with that lovely, if you like, authenticity, confidence, and conviction, people just go, I'm buying. I don't know what you're selling, but I'm in. I had a really interesting experience. Once I took on a client, and one day she said to me, do you know, I must tell you that the reason, sorry, I'm just going to let somebody in from the waiting room. She said, I must just tell you the reason that I invested in you. And actually she invested a lot. It was for herself and some of her team in her company. And she had invested about 45, 50,000 at the time. She said, here's the reason. When I saw you in London on that stage, I said to my cousin, as you were walking across the stage, and by the way, can I just share things with you here that are totally honest? And it's not like, aren't I wonderful? I'm just telling you, this stuff happens, right? She said, I said to my cousin, that's my new coach. And my cousin said, what are you talking about? She hasn't actually said anything. And I said, Jared doesn't have to. That's my new coach. And you see, when you give off a certain air of confidence, it's very attractive to people because people want more confidence. And people want to feel your confidence. And when people feel your confidence, they feel safe. They feel safe with you. They feel safe investing their money with you. They can lean on you. They can lean into you. Arguably, they're not going to spend much money with you or buy much unless you can convey that. And that has to come from the inside out. By the way, the second thing she said was, it was also the shoes. For those of you who are a bit superficial like me, but maybe it's not superficial, Valentino rock studs. Not the high heels, I hasten to add. That's going way too far. Stiletto, the small ones. So I'm saying you got to sell yourself to yourself first and foremost. So that's the number one of what I'm sharing this evening, permission. Now I'm telling you, if you never hear anything else from me again in your life, this might be the most useful thing for some of you to hear. Because I'm telling you, it's a very simple strategy that you can take, put into your handbag or backpack, and use every time you go to strut your stuff and step out in life and go for something bigger. Because the truth is, you got to convince yourself first and foremost. And you're probably going to need that strategy, that tool on a regular basis in life. As soon as you start to think about something bigger, I promise you, unless you are that sociopath, which I'm sure you're not, who am I, is going to rise up. And you're going to be able to slay that just like that. Please put slay in the chat. Slay, slay, slay. You're going to slay that doubt just like that. So think about it. If I hadn't slayed that doubt, well, my life would have been very different. I don't know how my life would have been if I hadn't gone on to write the book. And to be really honest, it wouldn't have had the impact that it had for a lot of people. You know, over the years before the internet started up, I used to get letters to my publisher's office in London just saying, hey, I got your book. I'm in Australia. I'm in England. I'm in Ireland. I'm wherever. And this is what I've done. And this is the difference it's made. So it's not just about you, my friends. It's about the impact of you. That's why you got to get out of your own way and free yourself up to do the things that you're here to do. Okay, so you got to give yourself permission. Permission's number one. What's number two? Number two, the second thing I would say that helped make the book a great success was, quite frankly, press. Hello. I knew that if people didn't get to hear and see about the book, how the heck could they buy it? Hello. It's the same with you. Whatever you do, you could be offering the best service in the world, in your industry, in your field. And if people don't know about you, they can't use your services. They can't buy from you. They can't get what you want, get what you're offering. So I knew that getting in the media, in the press, magazines, newspapers, radio, TV, I knew that was the thing that would give it its best chance of being a bestseller. I knew if it had 3 days, 2 would have done, 3 was fabulous, but I knew if it was serialized, if they bought the serialization rights for 3 days, we had a bestseller in our hands. So that's exactly what happened. There is nothing on the planet more powerful than getting featured in the press, for 2 reasons. Number one, you get a lot of attention, a lot of eyes on you very quickly. So the thing that you are selling can very often get sold. Now, I'm not saying that every feature, every time, is going to result in sales. But when it's something very specific, like a book like that, 100%, your sales are going to go through the roof. If it's a particular service that's really right for that place, yeah. And the second thing that happens that cannot happen in any other way, it confers an authority on you that nothing else does. When you get seen in the press, when the Times calls you one of the new gurus, when the Mail says you're the country's top coach, when the Express says you're the queen bee, all of those things that have been said, it makes a difference. And for better or worse, rightly or wrongly, I think you can finish off this sentence. People still believe what they read in the press. Even in these times of social media, the press, the media, for better or worse, carries enormous power, enormous influence. I posted something last week that there was a feature in the Daily Mail. Now, the Daily Mail, it's a very powerful newspaper. I'm not saying I always like it. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm saying it's powerful. That's what I'm saying. I take a lot of my clients there now because the readership fits with what they're offering. The readership is typically a 56-year-old female who has disposable income. That fits with a lot of my clients. In fact, I have a feature myself in there on Saturday. I'm using the press. I'm going to give you that example in a second. I'll come back to it. But I'm using the press on Saturday to really relaunch what I do. I've done a feature about how I moved back to the city from the country and changed my life. And I gave a talk and I talked about the power of getting in the press. And pretty much overnight, I had an agency. I did a talk to 250 people and people went a little bit crazy. And overnight, I had an agency, a press agency, a PR agency. People were saying, I don't want to learn how to do it. I don't want to do a course. I just want you to do it for me. Thank you very much. So I'm using that feature. Look out for it. It'll be on Saturdays, Daily Mail, probably online. But you'll see what I'm doing. This is a little bit of behind the scenes I'm sharing with you, but you'll see what I'm doing with that feature. It's a nice, relatable feature about the fact that in midlife, It's never too late to change what you do. And the power of moving back to, in my case anyway, moving back to the city. So it's a nice, motivational, inspiring piece, and it's positioning what I do. Can you see all that, ladies and gents? It's very strategic. I'm doing it specifically to announce what I'm doing and to bring clients. So my point is, last week I opened up the mail on Sunday and I just couldn't believe it online. I looked and I was like, oh my Lord, that one feature is going to change the conversation around health in this country, in the UK, that one feature, in a way that nothing else and no one else could, because people, rightly or wrongly, have a great regard for what they read in the press. This feature, I just couldn't believe it, was about the COVID vaccination and how so many people have been left injured and damaged by it, and that they are seeking compensation. And guess what? They're struggling to get compensation for all the reasons that we know that, pharmaceutical companies were giving exemption. Anyway, my point is that was a staggering feature. That feature went out to 4.4 million people. So the online readership for something like the Mail is 4.4 million a day. I mean, in the name of good God, people, where do you reach people like that? You can't. And when it's you that's being featured, you're being featured in a very positive way. So it's like the most extraordinary endorsement, much more powerful than an ad, and more powerful than social media as well. So is this one making sense? Give me a yes in the chat. This is making sense. Put any comments, any questions in there. Let me know. So for you to really get yourself out there, the truth is there is nothing more powerful than the press and getting in the media, even in these times of social media. I love social media. I really do. I love communicating with people everywhere and anywhere. But the truth is, over here, traditional press is still very powerful. Third thing that I did that made a difference is present. I presented. I did presentations. So I got permission, and we got press, and we got present. I'm just going with the P's tonight. I had a talk. I had a little signature talk. And I just got out there up and down the country, went to every darn bookshop that you could find that would have me, met people, signed books, shook hands. Now, I can tell you that over the years, I've refined that, because at the time, and you don't know what you don't know, but at the time, I just got on a train and I went off and I did my talks, and then I waved goodbye to people. I now know that was complete madness. Don't do that. Please do not do what I did. I learned how to structure a talk that brings people along with you. So instead of you going to the train station on your own and getting on the train, you bring people with you so that people can get on the train with you, get on the journey for the next stage. Because if you do a talk and you inspire people and they love you and they hug you, oh, I love you. If they don't have a way to stay with you, to stay connected with you, and probably to get your help thereafter, it's a bit of a waste of time. It's a bit of a waste of time. It just is. Because look, getting people excited, getting them inspired, it's a short-lived thing. It'll last for a couple of days. And you've left them with no way to continue to grow, to get your help, to get the result, the thing that you've been talking about. So I actually went to America. I have probably spent at least 100,000 on learning how to speak, to inspire, and bring people along on the journey. When you do that, it's a fabulous way of sharing a message that also builds your business and you're serving people at the same time. Zig Ziglar, one of the greatest speakers and motivational people, of our time, of any time, he said towards the end of his life, he had done this survey. His company did all this research, and they researched a lot of people who'd come to his talks over the years as to whether they changed their life. And here's what he found. The people overwhelmingly who had changed their life, it wasn't as a result of hearing him speak, and he was a brilliant speaker. It was as a result of buying the package, the $300 package at the back of the room. It was the people who had got on the train with him, who had stayed with him, listened to his message every day. Now, in our world, it's probably getting your personal help or joining a program with you. It's whatever you're offering, do you see? But when you know how to do a simple signature talk or keynote, whatever you want to call it, that draws clients to you, that's a game changer. Because look, I'm going to be honest with you, getting in the press, it's not always the easiest thing in the world. It just isn't. It's the most phenomenal thing and powerful thing. But I think that having the tool of being able to speak is a really critical skill to have. The two together are just sensational. That's what I do in my business, and it's what I help others do. And that's what I'll talk to you about next week if we have a chat. Those two strategies will set you apart. And at the end of the day, you've got to be able to communicate. You've got to be able to communicate, especially in these times when the world is a very crowded space. There are so many people doing what you do. You just got to assume that. And therefore, your biggest challenge is probably getting seen, standing out from everyone else. I'm not saying that from a pushy point of view or a competitive point of view or scarcity, like you got to elbow people out of the way. No, 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 no. I'm just talking about you being clear about what sets you apart, what you've got that makes you different. And all of you have things that set you apart. You are totally unique in terms of your personal story, your personal experience, and what you're bringing to the table. So being able to bring that together and include it into a talk and include it in the way that you present yourself and perhaps get into the media, that's what you got going for you, folks. And when you can do that, it naturally sets you apart. So truthfully, my life did change. It was actually last February with one talk. I did a talk in Dublin to about 250 people. And I talked about the power of getting in the press. And the funny thing is, I only did it because my usual topic was gone. And the organizer said, "Oh, sorry, you can't talk on that." And I thought, oh dear, maybe I won't talk at all. And she said, "Well, what else can you talk about? I mean, what else do you know about?" I said, "Well, I mean, obviously getting in the press, that's fine, do that." Okay. And that's what I did. And honestly, I know some of you'll think it's the weirdest thing because, of course, I've been aware of the power of the press and getting myself in the press like for 30 years. And when I've had coaching clients, I've always, looked for opportunities to get them in the press. But I suppose sometimes you can be so close to something that you just don't see it clearly. So I put together a talk and I went into detail about getting into the press, how I'd done it, the difference that it made for my clients, and 3 simple strategies that I had used. And people went crazy. Couldn't believe it. First time I'd ever really just devoted a talk to that. And literally followed me off the stage to my table and said, I want that. I want that. That is the power of a well structured talk that gets people inspired. Your job when you talk is always to inspire people. You're there to convert. Make no mistake. Old mentor of mine used to say, a talk that doesn't convert is a monologue. A talk that doesn't convert is a monologue. Your job is to convert people to your big idea. It's a little bit like if you were doing a TED talk, you would have a through line. You'd have that big idea. And then your job is also to showcase what you do, what you have done in an interesting way, not a salesy way or a pushy way, in an interesting way. And to give people a way to get on the train with you. They can find out more, get more from you. Okay, look, I'm going to stop talking. I don't know how long I've been talking for. I could be talking till 10 o'clock tonight and I wouldn't notice. Now, I'm going to take any comments. I want to know what you're hearing. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What's landing for you? I love serendipity, Katerina. Does this approach also help with product positioning too? Yeah, it doesn't matter what you're selling. You got to get behind it. You got to get out there and you got to talk about how it's useful, how it's different, how it's invaluable, how it is different. And also, you want to have story behind a product as well. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, definitely products. Definitely. What else? What else? And if some of you need to go, don't forget, I put that link in the chat, or rather Michelle has put the link on the chat. What are you hearing? How could you apply this to you? How could this permission, this sense of confidence and conviction, make a difference to you, for you? How might getting in the press make a difference to you, for you? Maybe some of you haven't thought about that because everybody is so fixated on social media that maybe you haven't thought about the other side of things. Would it be useful to you if you did have a simple 15-minute keynote, signature talk that you rolled out time and time again? I mean, to be honest, last year I did the same talk about 20 times. The same talk. The same talk. Now, you might freshen it up, bring in some new examples and stories, but it is the same talk. And guess what I'm doing next month? The same talk in the same place. I'm going to freshen it up slightly, obviously, but the talk title is exactly the same. I'm going to do the same in March. I'm going to do the same in April. And then I'm going to do the same in May. I've got talks lined up every month. The title is exactly the same. Get in the press. Reach millions of your ideal clients by getting featured in the press. Same talk. Freshened up every time, but the same talk. Now, you get better, and your intention is to get better every time you speak. Of course, you're never complacent. It's a little bit like, if you were in the West End and you're doing 8 shows a week, can you imagine that? You've got to be bringing it fresh every single time. Because every time you speak, it's a new audience. They haven't seen you necessarily before, so it's got to be fresh and new and va-va-voom every time, every time, every time. So questions. What's your biggest takeaway here? Put it in the chat. Put your questions in the chat. Let me hear and let me see. And we've got about 5 minutes, and then I'll let you go. What's your biggest takeaway? Biggest takeaway. And here's an interesting thing. Years after Be Your Own Life Coach came out, I came across this book and I came across this quote from the book. And the minute I heard it, It stopped me in my tracks. Do you know what the quote was? The quote was this, from this leading cosmetic surgeon who had written a book called huge bestseller, called Psycho-Cybernetics. Huge title. Psycho-Cybernetics. He was called Maxwell Maltz. Here's the quote. The biggest sale, the most important sale you will ever make in your life is you to you. Selling you to you. And I thought, OMG, that is exactly what I did on that Monday morning at 9:30 that my dad had talked about all those years earlier. Sell it to yourself first. And Maxwell Maltz was talking about you. You know, you got to sell you to you. And that's what I'd sat down and do. Isn't that fabulous, guys? Sometimes you hear something and the ring of truth is so strong, it's like jeepers creepers. Wow. Yeah. Tony, every time you speak, it's fresh audience. Absolutely. Moya, takeaway, reasons you're uniquely placed and qualified. Most definitely. Most definitely. That conviction, that confidence. You want to walk in and people go, yes, I'll have two, please. Tell me about the premium offer, because it's very important, especially in these times, for people to feel safe with you, safe in investing, safe in buying from you, safe in getting your help, just safe. We live in very uncertain times. There's a great deal of fear in our environment. People feel that. And they really do need to feel safe before they spend money with us. Can I get a yes on that if that's landing for you? So they can only feel that confidence if we convey it. And we can only convey it if we've got it to offer, if we've got it to convey. Presenting, I'm evangelical about structure and the importance of having a structure, a particular structure that that works to bring people on the train with you, that isn't salesy or pushy, but nonetheless brings people on the train with you. Having spent years and years doing talks that didn't do that may have inspired people and got people excited for a short time and got me lots of claps, but didn't actually really help people and certainly did not grow my business or let me help people. So now I only teach a structure that shows you how to convert an audience, first and foremost to your big idea and get the big idea, and then to bring them along with you. Right. Any other questions, folks? What's landing for you? What questions do you have? Anything at all? And if anyone wants to speak, you can unmute yourself and you can speak. That's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Thank you, Moya. And make sure that you get the Daily Mail on Saturday or click, I think it's probably on the online version, which to be honest is more powerful than the paper version. Because sometimes people say, gosh, the press, do people read papers? Yeah, they do. They actually read more these times than before. Do you know why? One word. Who knows what that word is? Can you put it in the chat? What is the reason why people actually read more papers, newspapers, consume more media today than before? It's one word. Online. Online. Michelle Morris Photography. Do you think you'd put the link in the chat again, my darling? Because it's probably moved and disappeared. the sales of the print version of the Daily Mail are 800,000, which is not bad, really. Let's be honest. Which means the readership, because they, passed around and left around, which means the readership is about 1.2 million. Online, 4.4. 4.4 million. So on Saturday, I don't know if every single one is going to read my feature, but 4.4 million people will have access to the Mail online with that feature in it. Here's the other phenomenal advantage these days than previously. It stays around. I have clients who had phenomenal features like as far back as 2017. I could give you their names now. You could put them in and the Daily Mail feature will come up. I say Daily Mail because their website is so good. Their online reach is phenomenal. They're just way ahead of most of the other papers, to be honest. 2017, you're going to find features from clients. Back in the day when I was starting out, people used to joke that it was today's news and it was tomorrow's fish and chip paper. So once upon a time, fish and chips were wrapped. The outside wrapping was newspaper. And that was exactly true. You could have a feature on a Tuesday and on a Wednesday, it would be the wrapping of a fish and chip paper. It would be gone. Nowadays, much more powerful. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Helen. That's so kind of you. Bless you. Fantastic. So someone is asking an interesting feature about cost. Oh, Moya. Yeah. Rough cost of how much it takes to have a feature online and how it's priced. I don't sell ads or ad space. Ads are fine, but they don't have the power, the impact of editorial coverage. So what I now do is I have a press agency. So we work with clients. I've got a team of ex-journalists who work with me. They're fabulous people. I love them so much because they understand this world inside out, from the inside. And they're fabulous writers as well, because sometimes we have to write people's features. So what we do with our clients is we're looking for ideas that are going to make them interesting, that are going to make them press worthy. I'll give you an example of one in a moment. And also we're in contact with all the press every single day, which means we're hearing what they want, we're hearing what they need. So here's an example. So maybe, sorry, Moya, to answer your question. So if you're a client of ours, you're not paying for an ad. You're not paying for a half page or a page. You pay us a retainer fee, depending on how much coverage you want, how much time you need from us, all of that. But it's actually phenomenal good value, because if you were to take out a page in the Daily Mail, jeepers creepers, I must look this up, a minimum of 60,000. And that would be an ad. And it won't have the impact the editorial will have, because everybody knows it's an ad, you've paid for it. And also, it's gone. Unless you're constantly putting that ad out there, it's gone and it will have very little impact. So here's an example. So I have a client called Sophie Persone, Personne. She's fabulous. She's an amazing dating coach. And I saw that the Daily Mail, they reached out and they said, hey, we're looking for, very often papers are feeding off something that's already in the news. So Maura Higgins, that celebrity who's been everywhere, apparently she had done a feature, an interview where she had said, gosh, do you know something? I'm not even sure I've ever been in love before. So press that took that quote and they said, hey, the Daily Mail wanted to do a feature on a 50-year-old woman who felt she'd never been in love before. So they said, hey, do you guys know? So they reach out to people like us, PR people. Do you have anyone? You got any clients? Do you know anyone who is 50 and feels like they haven't been in love? Now, I'm always looking to make something work for my clients. So I raced to my dating coach and I said, listen, what do you think? What you got? She said, yeah, I think I've got someone. I said, okay, let me talk to her because she's got to be willing to be photographed. She's got to be willing to talk to the press. I've got the criteria of what they're looking for. I just need to make sure she matches. So thankfully, she ticked every box. She was willing to speak. She had got married very young and realized that she probably hadn't been in love. She got married for the wrong reasons. And she was happy to do the feature. My job is to make sure that my client, Sophie, is featured in that feature so that the feature says, gosh, yes, I realized I'd probably never been in love before. And then when I decided I really wanted to change my life and meet a great man and find true love, I reached out to an expert. Do you see where I'm going with this? And then my client gets involved. So it's a feature about how you can go through life and get to 50 and good Lord, realize you haven't been in love, but Sophie's in there. And at the end, whose website is at the bottom of the feature? That's right. You got it, Sophie, right? Sometimes, and by the way, that feature will be in tomorrow. It'll either be tomorrow's Daily Mail or next Friday's. So the photo shoot was yesterday. The interview was done Monday. Photo shoot was yesterday. Actually, no, sorry, the photo shoot was today. Possibly it'll go in tomorrow, otherwise latest next Friday. So look out for that. That will be in the print version. You can buy it and hold it in your hand, and it'll be online as well. Yeah. So any other questions, guys, before I let you go? I hope this is all making sense. I hope that I'm converting you. I hope I'm converting you to see that, you know, what worked for Be Your Own Life Coach just works. It just works. Whether it's a book or whether it's a business thing or the growth of your business, the next stage for you, what I'm sharing with you works. Good. Anyone want to say anything before we go? Any questions before we close? Thank you so much for being here, by the way. It's been a real pleasure to be with you. Thank you, Moyen. I'll be talking to you soon as well. Good. All right, my darlings, listen, it's been a pleasure. Put in there before you go one key takeaway that you're taking away from this. And then I know it's being useful for you and you're really imprinting it and taking it away with you. One key takeaway. One key takeaway. Yes, indeed, Teresa, you have to believe in yourself. Oh, you do. Excuse me. Thank you, Michelle. You got to sell it to yourself first. Communicate and be seen 100%. You cannot be a success and a secret. Definitely. You got to be seen. You got to be seen in the right way. Yeah. And we're all selling ourselves, right? And the job of selling ourselves starts with us. You got to sell yourself to yourself first. All right, my beautiful people. So I will talk to you very soon. And great to be with you. Thanks, guys. Lots of love for now. Bye. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Bye for